They said Hollywood scandals were already out of control, but nothing could prepare us for this shocking twist. Blake Lively, once hailed as America's golden girl, now finds herself cornered in a courtroom nightmare that threatens not only her career, but her freedom too, because behind the glamour, behind the red carpets and picture-perfect family photos, there is a storm brewing, with accusations of lies, manipulation, and betrayal. So dark that whispers of prison time are no longer just rumors, but terrifying possibilities, and as the truth begins to spill, the image of Blake Lively is shattering before our very eyes. Blake Lively, the actress who for years was painted as the flawless face of Hollywood, the woman who charmed audiences with her smile, her style. Her seemingly perfect life has now become the center of one of the darkest, most shocking, and emotionally devastating scandals the entertainment world has seen in years. Because what is unfolding inside that courtroom is not. The glamorous fairy tale fans were sold, but a ruthless game of power manipulation and lies that is stripping away every carefully crafted layer of her public image, exposing a reality so ugly, so brutal, that it feels impossible to believe that someone who once represented elegance could now be dragged into accusations that carry whispers of betrayal, deception, and even prison time. And the deeper this story goes, the more it reveals a twisted labyrinth where publicists play God, where image matters more than truth, and where the lives of celebrities are built on fragile foundations, ready to collapse with a single revelation. And now the collapse is happening before our very eyes. The accusations surrounding Blake Lively are not simple disagreements. They are not misunderstandings. They are claims that pierce right into the heart of her credibility, her honesty, her entire identity. Because at the center of this storm lies a publicist whose lies appear to have gone too far, creating a dangerous mess that now threatens to consume them both. What began as whispers in back rooms and hushed conversations has exploded into open courtroom battles, with shocking testimony, jaw-dropping allegations, and revelations that have left Hollywood insiders gasping, because behind the polished smiles and elegant gowns, there are claims of manipulation, of deliberately feeding lies to the press, of twisting narratives to protect one image while destroying others, and the public is beginning to realize that the Blake Lively they thought they knew may never have existed at all. The courtroom has become a stage. But unlike the glamorous movie sets, this stage is lined with cold facts, harsh questioning, and witnesses unafraid. To speak the truth, the prosecution has painted a devastating picture, suggesting that a tangled web of lies orchestrated by those closest to her was not just careless mismanagement, but a deliberate attempt to cover up truths that could ruin careers. And the haunting part is that those truths are beginning to surface with brutal clarity. Every testimony, every piece of evidence builds a heavier case, and with each moment the pressure grows, suffocating her once untouchable image like a tidal wave, crushing everything in its path. But the most terrifying part is not just what is being revealed, it is the uncertainty of how much more is still hidden. Because every new day in court feels like peeling back another layer of secrets, and those secrets are darker than anyone could have imagined. Hollywood thrives on reinvention, but when reinvention turns into fabrication, when image becomes more important than integrity, when lies pile up so high that even the people telling them cannot remember where the truth begins and ends, then we are no longer watching a star. We are watching the slow unraveling of a carefully constructed illusion, and it is heartbreaking. It is terrifying. It is shocking, because fans who once worshipped her are now questioning every smile, every interview, every detail of her life, wondering if any of it was ever real at all. And as the cameras flash outside the courthouse, the world is reminded that fame is not freedom. It is a prison made of expectations, lies, and desperate attempts to control the narrative. And for Blake Lively, that prison has never felt more real than it does right now, with her reputation on the line, her future uncertain, and her name forever tied to a scandal that may go down as one of the darkest in Hollywood history. And the story is far from over, because this is only the beginning. And the deeper we go, the more we uncover and the more shocking it becomes, leaving us all asking just how far this rabbit hole really goes. The courtroom has become the ultimate battlefield, a place where reputations are not just challenged but demolished in real time, where each testimony acts like a dagger cutting through years of carefully constructed public perception, and the silence between every revelation is louder than any scream, because everyone watching knows that Hollywood's glittering facade is being torn apart in front of them. And it is not just Blake Lively who is under the microscope, it is the entire machinery around her, the publicists, the lawyers, the producers, the friends turned enemies. each one being pulled into the gravity of this scandal, and every single name that surfaces drags the story deeper into darkness. What makes this even more unbearable for her defenders is the sheer weight of the evidence piling up, because this is not gossip whispered in the shadows. This is documented proof, timelines, receipts, declarations that paint a picture of manipulation so deliberate, so chilling, that even the most loyal of fans are finding it hard to look away, and the defense tries to brush it off, tries to minimize the scale. But each attempt only makes the cracks more visible, because once you introduce the possibility of deception, it multiplies like a virus, infecting everything connected to her, and suddenly every past headline, every glossy magazine cover, every polished interview feels tainted by suspicion. And in that suspicion lies the true tragedy, the realization that perhaps none of it was ever real. And while Blake herself sits in that courtroom, her expressions scrutinized her body language, dissected her silence, interpreted the world as watching in horror at the possibility that this is not just about her. This is about an entire industry built on smoke and mirrors. And when those mirrors shatter, the reflection that stares back is monstrous, because behind the image of the perfect Hollywood star lies a tangled mass of greed, power, desperation, and betrayal. And that betrayal stings the hardest because it is not just betrayal of colleagues or industry insiders. It is betrayal of the fans who believed in her, who invested emotionally in the fantasy she represented. And to see that fantasy crumble is not just disappointing, it is devastating, and yet as if the scandal was not enough. New players keep entering the stage. Rebel Wilson, Melissa, Nathan, Camille, Vasquez, each name adding another explosive layer, another shocking twist that transforms this saga from a personal downfall into a sprawling web of corruption and chaos that seems to touch everyone in its path. And Rebel's involvement makes this even more surreal because her own lawsuits mirror the very patterns being alleged here. Smear campaigns, hidden PR strategies, the weaponization of lies to destroy reputations, all while pretending to be a victim of circumstance. And Melissa Nathan, once a behind-the-scenes fixer, now finds herself dragged into the spotlight, accused of orchestrating campaigns so vicious, so racially charged, that they feel ripped from the darkest corners of internet warfare. And the thought that the same tactics that allegedly targeted others might also have been deployed in Blake's defense sends chills through the courtroom, because suddenly the narrative shifts from a personal scandal to a systemic one. A revelation that the crisis PR world operates like a shadow government, dictating narratives, manufacturing enemies, and rewriting truth in real time. But what happens when the receipts surface? What happens when those very architects of deception leave trails of evidence, emails, texts, whispered instructions that can no longer be hidden? The answer is chaos. The kind of chaos that scorches reputations beyond repair. And Hollywood is watching nervously, because if Blake falls, if the tactics are exposed, then who is safe? Because how many other stars have been protected by the same tricks? How many careers have been salvaged through lies, and how many innocent people have been destroyed by fabricated narratives designed to protect the powerful? And this fear spreads like wildfire, because if one domino falls, the rest may tumble, and the entire house of cards that is Hollywood's carefully maintained illusion may collapse. And while this plays out, the press is relentless. Headlines scream betrayal, lies, scandal, while paparazzi fight for photos of a woman whose once golden image is now synonymous with disgrace. And the irony is painful, because the same media she once courted now feasts on her downfall, magnifying every flaw, every stumble, every tear, and turning her pain into entertainment for the masses. And yet within that entertainment, there is an unmistakable horror, because what we are witnessing is not just the unraveling of a star, but the exposure of an entire system where power is maintained not by talent or truth, but by control of the narrative. And when that control slips, the results are catastrophic. The whispers now suggest that Blake may not only lose her reputation, but face legal consequences. Consequences that include the chilling possibility of prison time. A phrase so shocking that even her harshest critics struggle to process it, because the leap from Hollywood darling to potential convict is almost unthinkable. And yet here we are standing on the precipice of a scandal so vast that nothing feels impossible anymore. And the courtroom becomes a theater of suspense. The echoes of betrayal ripple through every corner of the industry as the courtroom saga drags on. And with each passing day, the sense of dread thickens like smoke that refuses to clear, suffocating anyone who dares to come near. Because what started As a story about one actress, one family, one film has now spiraled into an intricate web of lies, manipulation, and destruction that ensnares everyone within reach. And the shocking part is how calculated every move appears to be, as if the entire narrative was written long before the cameras ever rolled, and the audience realizes too late that they have been players in a game designed to control perception and obliterate opposition. And this game is far from over, because even as Blake Lively sits in the center of the storm, the names around her continue to multiply like ghosts emerging from the shadows, each one with their own secrets, each one with their own agenda. And the deeper the investigation goes, the more chilling the revelations become. Rebel Wilson, once painted as a lovable comedic force, now revealed to be tangled in lawsuits that mirror the same patterns of deceit and destruction that Blake is accused of. Melissa Nathan, a so-called fixer whose whispered strategies allegedly unleashed campaigns so cruel, so racially charged, so grotesquely manipulative that they feel ripped straight from the darkest recesses of a dystopian nightmare. And behind them, all attorneys, publicists, and agents maneuver like chess masters, moving pawns across a board where reputations, careers, and even lives are treated as disposable pieces. And in the middle of it stands Blake. Lively, not the character from glossy rom-coms or glamorous premieres, but a woman stripped bare in front of the world, her tears, her silence, her fury dissected frame by frame as the public decides whether she is victim, villain, or both. The tragedy is not just that her career hangs by a thread, but that the industry itself is trembling. Because if this case exposes what many have long suspected, if it proves that PR machines can manufacture smear campaigns, destroy rivals, and rewrite entire narratives, then the entire Hollywood ecosystem is at risk. Because once the audience knows the magic trick, the illusion is gone forever, and the illusion is what Hollywood depends on. The illusion that stars are untouchable, that talent alone determines success, that the industry is built on dreams. Not corruption, but this trial has torn that mask away, and underneath is something rotten, something parasitic that feeds on destruction. And when the receipts come out, emails, texts, hidden communications that reveal the machinery at work, the horror becomes undeniable, and suddenly, the glamorous starlets and powerful executives look less like visionaries and more like predators dressed in designer clothing. And for the fans watching this unravel, it is like watching a beloved fairy tale collapse into a nightmare, because the fantasy that once brought joy now feels tainted, poisoned by greed and lies. And yet there is a strange fascination that keeps them glued to every headline, because scandals this massive do not just destroy, they reveal. And what they reveal is often more shocking than fiction. Take the case of Rebel Wilson, accused of unleashing anonymous websites filled with vile defamatory claims against her own colleagues, with Camille Vasquez, the powerhouse attorney, now stepping into the fray, bringing with her the same ferocity that once turned the Amber Heard-Johnny Depp trial into a global spectacle. And as Vasquez sharpens her legal blades, the parallels between Wilson's case and Blake's grow impossible to ignore, because both involve women accused of weaponizing influence. Both involve whispers of PR manipulation. Both involve careers hanging in the balance. And the unnerving question emerges: how many others are hiding the same tactics? How many reputations have been quietly obliterated without the world ever realizing it? And then there is Melissa Nathan. Her name now etched into lawsuits that accuse her of masterminding smear campaigns that went beyond professional disputes into personal destruction, accusations that include racially charged narratives, grotesque falsehoods, and anonymous sites designed to annihilate the reputations of rivals. And as her name is spoken in the courtroom, as her emails are dissected, the weight of it presses down on Justin Baldoni too, because he relied on her as his crisis manager, and if her methods are proven to be as ruthless as alleged, then what does that mean for his defense? What does it mean for Blake's case? And what does it mean for everyone she has ever represented? And here lies the true suspense. The realization that Hollywood's most powerful figures may be standing on foundations of sand, one revelation away from collapse. And the thought sends shivers down the spines of everyone watching. Because if Blake falls, if Rebel falls, if Melissa falls, who will be next? Will it be the producers who once thought they were untouchable? The agents who orchestrated careers behind closed doors? The publications that printed stories fed by shadowy sources? The reporters who knowingly or unknowingly became pawns in a larger game? And the whispers now suggest that this is only the beginning, because each lawsuit, each subpoena, each declaration peels back another layer. And behind that layer lies another darker truth. The possibility that entire careers were built not on merit or artistry, but on calculated destruction of anyone who dared to stand in the way. And the fans who once idolized these figures now feel betrayed, because the realization dawns that the star system itself may be rotten at the core. And when that trust is broken, when the illusion collapses, what remains is not admiration, but suspicion. And in that suspicion, the industry begins to unravel. The court of public opinion is already turning headlines branding Blake as manipulative, Rebel as ruthless, Melissa as sinister. And yet within those accusations lies an even greater question: who is pulling the strings? Because scandals of this magnitude do not erupt spontaneously. They are engineered. And if they are engineered, then somewhere hidden in the shadows is a mastermind orchestrating chaos for reasons we may never fully understand. The paranoia spreads names like Jed Wallace, Brian Friedman, Isabella Ferrer whispered in the same breath as lies lawsuits and betrayals. Each name a potential key to unlocking a conspiracy that feels more like a thriller than reality. And yet it is reality, and that is what makes it terrifying. And as the trial drags on, as more revelations flood the courtroom, the suspense grows unbearable. Because we are no longer watching a story about Blake Lively. We are watching a story about Hollywood itself. A story about power, corruption, and the price of deception. And the question that lingers like a ghost is not whether Blake is guilty, but whether Hollywood itself can survive the truth. The weight of silence in the courtroom is almost unbearable as whispers of hidden evidence begin to circulate, whispers that grow louder with each leak and each anonymous tip until it feels as though the walls themselves are closing in on everyone involved, because the deeper this saga goes, the more it becomes clear that what we are watching is not just a battle between two celebrities, but a reckoning for the entire machine that created them. And the machine is desperate to keep its gears turning no matter how much oil, blood, or reputation must be sacrificed along the way. Blake Lively, once the darling of audiences adored for her charm, her wit, her flawless ability to embody the modern fairy tale, has now become the lightning rod for everything. The industry fears exposure, betrayal, and collapse. Her name is shouted in court, her texts dissected on screen, her choices picked apart in endless think pieces as the world demands to know. Is she the victim of a ruthless smear campaign, or the architect of her own destruction? And the cruel truth is that in Hollywood, perception is reality, and perception is shifting fast. Her fans insist that she has been targeted, manipulated, forced into silence, while her enemies gleefully present every screenshot, every wardrobe fitting every brainstorm meeting as proof of hypocrisy and deceit. And the stakes grow higher as Justin Baldoni, once portrayed as the soft-spoken visionary, the man determined to bring raw emotional authenticity to the screen, now stands transformed into something else entirely. A crusader. A man who claims he has been dragged through the mud by false narratives, determined to reclaim his reputation at any cost. And when he produces receipts, logs, transcripts that seem to contradict Blake's story, the ground shakes beneath her feet, but then new leaks surface, leaks that suggest his team too may have crossed lines. Leaks that point toward aggressive smear, tactics, and deliberate character assassinations, leaving the public to wonder whether either side is clean, whether either side deserves to emerge from this unscathed. And hovering in the background like a shadow that cannot be ignored are the figures whose names keep surfacing: Rebel Wilson, Melissa, Nathan, Jed Wallace, Brian Friedman, all tethered to whispers of manipulation, of smear campaigns, of reputations deliberately destroyed to serve the ambitions of a few powerful players. And as these names are dragged into the light, the narrative becomes bigger than Blake and Justin. It becomes a story of Hollywood's soul, a story of how far the industry will go to protect its golden projects and golden idols, even if it means burying inconvenient truths under mountains of lies. The courtroom has become theater. Each document presented like a script, each witness a performer, each lawyer a director guiding the audience toward one narrative or another, and the audience, the world at large, is captivated, unable to look away. Because this is not fiction. This is real lives, real reputations, real prison sentences, dangling on the edge of possibility, the chilling rumors of a 5. And so we arrive at the edge of the abyss where questions outweigh answers, and the only certainty is that Hollywood will never be the same. Because what began as a creative partnership has spiraled into a brutal war of reputations and survival. Blake Lively, once cherished as the embodiment of grace and relatability, now finds her image cracked and bleeding under the weight of accusations of manipulation, dishonesty, and betrayal. while Justin Baldoni painted as the quiet visionary determined to honor a beloved story has been dragged into the mud. His name forever tied to a lawsuit that could define his career for decades. The whispers of perjury, of fabricated evidence of a looming 5-year prison sentence hang in the air like smoke, choking everyone who dares to breathe, and the truth is buried somewhere beneath the endless leaks. The staged performances and the ruthless media circus that feeds on scandal like a predator. The audience that once adored these stars is now divided, torn between loyalty and suspicion, wondering if their idols are nothing more than illusions, carefully crafted by machines designed to sell lies as easily as dreams. And every text message, every email, every log is a knife that cuts deeper into the fragile illusion of Hollywood perfection. Yet despite the wreckage, despite the chaos, one truth cannot be denied: that this story has become bigger than a single lawsuit, bigger than a single film. It is now the symbol of an industry where art and law collide, where ambition and deceit destroy careers, and where even the brightest stars can find themselves facing darkness. So the world waits breathless to see who will fall, who will rise, and who will be left broken in the ruins of a scandal that refuses to end.